in the hallowed halls of the Naval Command Center, a place where legends are forged and strategies that shape nations are born. Admiral Thompson stood, his presence as commanding as the fleet he oversaw. He was a man carved from discipline and decades of service, his gaze sharp enough to cut through steel. That day, a crucial briefing was underway. The topic, a critical infiltration mission, one so perilous it bordered on the impossible. The tension in the room was a palpable force, thick with the weight of responsibility. Suddenly, the heavy doors swung open, breaking the solemn atmosphere. A young woman entered. She wasn't in uniform, dressed instead in unassuming civilian attire that made her stand out starkly against the sea of decorated officers. She moved with a quiet confidence, an almost unnerving grace that seemed out of place yet completely natural. Admiral Thompson's brow furrowed. His voice, accustomed to booming across the decks of warships, was a low growl. "This is a classified briefing. This area is restricted. Who are you? State your name and rank immediately." His tone left no room for argument. An order barked from the highest echelon of command. The room fell silent, all eyes turning from the Admiral to the mysterious newcomer. The air crackled with anticipation. Who was this woman who dared to interrupt one of the most powerful men in the Navy? The young woman met his steely gaze without flinching. There was no defiance in her eyes, only a calm, unwavering certainty. She walked calmly to the front of the room, her footsteps the only sound in the sudden, heavy silence. She didn't offer a traditional military salute or a deferential nod. Instead, she simply stood before the Admiral, a silent challenge to his authority. The Admiral, impatient and annoyed by the interruption and the woman's lack of a conventional response, repeated his demand, his voice laced with ice. "I will not ask again. Identify yourself, or you will be removed by the guards." The tension in the room ratcheted up another notch. The officers present held their breath, expecting a swift and decisive end to this bizarre standoff. This was Admiral Thompson's domain, and intruders, no matter how confident, were dealt with swiftly. The woman finally spoke. Her voice was not loud, but it carried a resonance that filled the entire command center, cutting through the silence like a surgeon's scalpel. It was clear, steady, and held a power that belied her youthful appearance. She didn't give a name or a rank in the conventional sense. She offered something far more significant. "Calcine Night Viper," she said. The two words hung in the air, simple yet earth-shattering. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a wave of recognition, of pure, unadulterated shock, washed over the room. Jaws literally dropped. Whispers erupted among the seasoned officers, their professional composure shattering like glass. "Night Viper, it can't be. The Night Viper, I thought she was a myth. The one from Operation Serpent's Kiss." The name was a legend, a ghost story told in hushed tones in barracks and intelligence briefings. A name associated with impossible missions, with specter-like operatives who could turn the tide of a conflict single-handedly. Admiral Thompson, the unshakable titan of the Navy, froze. The color drained from his face. The authority that had defined him just moments before evaporated, replaced by a look of stunned disbelief and something else. Respect, even awe. The silence that fell over the room was no longer one of tense anticipation. It was a silence of reverence. The legend of Night Viper was whispered in the darkest corners of global intelligence. She wasn't just an operative, she was a phenomenon. A ghost who could slip through any defense. a whisper in the wind that signaled the downfall of entire regimes. Her exploits were the stuff of classified folklore. There was the time she single-handedly dismantled a rogue state's nuclear program in under 48 hours, leaving behind nothing but confusion and a single, cryptic symbol, or the extraction of a high-value asset from a fortress thought to be impenetrable. An operation so clean it was initially dismissed as an internal defection. Night Viper was the ultimate failsafe, the weapon you deployed when all other options had failed, when the situation was so dire that only a miracle could save it. And now, the miracle had a face. It was the face of the young woman standing before them. The officers, men and women decorated for valor, looked at her not as an intruder, but as a living deity of modern warfare. Admiral Thompson, slowly recovering from his shock, cleared his throat. His voice, when he finally spoke, had lost all its previous harshness. It was now filled with a deep, profound respect. "Night Viper," he said, the name tasting foreign and sacred on his tongue. We were not expecting you." His posture had shifted. The commanding officer was gone, replaced by a subordinate addressing a higher, albeit unofficial, power. He gestured towards the main holographic display at the center of the room. "The mission," he began, his tone now collaborative, deferential. "It's a Black Ops retrieval. A new hypersonic missile guidance system has been stolen. It's located in a subterranean bunker beneath the Volkov Citadel. The Citadel is considered the most secure military installation on the planet." He paused, the gravity of the situation settling back in. "We've run every simulation. Every approach model ends in catastrophic failure. We see no viable way in." Night Viper listened intently, her eyes scanning the holographic schematics of the Volkov Citadel. The complex was a technological marvel of defense. Layers of seismic sensors, biometric scanners, automated defense turrets, and a garrison of elite soldiers. It was a digital and physical fortress. While the Admiral spoke, her mind was already working, dissecting the fortress's defenses, identifying patterns and weaknesses invisible to others. She saw not impenetrable walls, but pathways. She saw not certain failure, but opportunity. The other officers watched her, mesmerized. They had spent weeks poring over this data, their best minds finding only dead ends. Yet, she looked at it with an analytical calm, as if she were merely solving a complex puzzle. Her reputation preceded her, and they now understood why. She didn't just execute missions. She redefined the very concept of what was possible. After a long moment of silence, Night Viper pointed to a tiny, almost insignificant detail on the schematica: thermal exhaust conduit, no wider than a man's shoulders, marked as a structural redundancy. "The Citadel's power core has a coolant flush cycle every 12 hours, she stated, not asked. "The primary and secondary exhaust ports are heavily monitored. But this tertiary conduit, its heat signature, is masked by the main reactor's output. During the flush, for exactly 90 seconds, the internal pressure sensors are recalibrated. That's the window." The room was stunned into silence again. The level of detail she knew, the microscopic flaw she had identified in a system designed by the world's best engineers, was beyond comprehension. It wasn't just intelligence. It was a form of precognition. She saw the flaw that no one else could. She saw the path. Admiral Thompson stared at the schematic, then back at her. A slow smile spread across his face, a smile of relief and burgeoning hope. "That's impossible," another officer muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. He was looking at the living embodiment of the impossible. The Admiral shook his head. With anyone else, I'd agree. But this is Night Viper. He turned to her completely. The mission is yours. You have carte blanche. Whatever you need, equipment, personnel, transportation, it's yours. Just tell us what to do. The power dynamic had completely inverted. The Admiral was no longer giving orders. He was taking them. Night Viper gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. I'll need a modified subsonic glider, a thermal dampening suit, and a one-way comms link. I work alone. The simplicity of her request was as shocking as her initial appearance. Alone, she was going to breach the world's most secure facility. Alone. The legend of Night Viper was cemented that day, not in a classified report, but in the memories of every person in that room. She wasn't just an operative, she was a paradigm shift. She represented a level of skill and intuition that transcended traditional military structure. The Admiral, a man of rules and hierarchies, had just witnessed something beyond his understanding and had the wisdom to step aside. As she turned to leave, a young lieutenant near the door, emboldened by the surreal atmosphere, asked the question on everyone's mind. How did you know about the conduit? It wasn't in any of our intel. Night Viper paused for a moment at the door, turning her head slightly. A faint smile touched her lips. Because I helped design the original security protocols for that citadel, she said. Before disappearing as quietly as she had arrived, leaving a room full of the world's most powerful military leaders in stunned, reverent silence. And so, the story of Night Viper continued, a whisper in the shadows, a name that brought silence to rooms and hope to desperate situations. She reminded them all that true power isn't always found in rank or uniform, but in the quiet confidence of unparalleled expertise. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales of legends and heroes. We'll see you in the next one.